What does it truly mean to be or define agentic AI? And how do you see it transforming healthcare, finance, and many other industries over the next few years?
Agentic AI is taking AI alongside the role that people perform, and can AI augment the following of that process, following rules, directing things to different directions, and that type of thing. That was probably the agentic AI definition up until very recently. There's a lot of agents and agentic frameworks out in the market, and there's many of them. But now this angle of agentic AI when it comes to augmenting and supporting software engineers, and to be honest, everybody involved in the software delivery lifecycle. So there's this kind of dual path now on agentic, which is the use of it to support and deliver in business value workflow, but there's also the dynamic of helping people, including software engineers and people inside of delivery, actually get like large chunks of code off the back of a prompt.
Welcome to Discover Dialogues podcast, powered by TechDogs. The world of business and technology is evolving at breakneck speed. AI breakthroughs, digital transformation, and game-changing innovations are reshaping industries every day. On this show, we dive into the trends, ideas, and strategies driving the future. We're sitting down with industry leaders, innovators, and disruptors to bring you fresh insights, bold perspectives, and real conversations that matter. So plug in, tune in, and let's discover what's next.
Today on the show, we're joined by Joe Dunleavy, Regional CTO for Europe and Global SVP, Head of Dava.X AI at Endava, where he leads groundbreaking initiatives like the Morpheus Agentic AI Accelerator. With over 20 years of experience, he's worked at Microsoft, built in the startup trenches, and led major transformation programs at Prudential and TCS. Let's dive in.
Welcome to another episode of TechDogs Discover Dialogues, Joe. It's a pleasure to have you on the show today.
Yeah, thanks very much. I'm looking forward to the conversation. Thank you for the opportunity.
So Joe, before we dive into the exciting stuff around AI and then leadership, I want to rewind a little. So from your early days in tech and startups to now leading AI and innovation, and serving as a regional CTO for Europe at Endava. I'd love to unpack your professional journey up until now. So would love for you
Okay.
to kind of talk us through it.
Yeah, sure. So, computer science background would have been, I was always a bit of a geek growing up. I was into astronomy, stamp collecting. I got into computers, so I was into sport as well. But a lot of the stuff was kind of tech driven. So, got into computers. I remember my uncle used to work in a local college, so I got an MS-DOS machine early on. I had to kind of use it to try and craft my skills. So I had an interest in computers, which kind of led me naturally into computer science.
Hmm.
So I studied computer science in college. That gave me an opportunity to work in technology from a career perspective right up until today. So I've only really worked in technology roles in various different kind of companies. So started with Microsoft in Dublin in the European headquarters. I'm based in Ireland, in Donegal in the northwest. I then went into the world of the startup ecosystem. So some people that I worked with in Microsoft were involved in a startup
Hmm.
that I got involved in, which was really cool. So I was in my early 20s, went from a kind of large corporate in Microsoft to kind of startup land.
Hmm.
Learned a lot there. It was a really interesting time. We had a couple of years doing that with myself and a couple of others, and then kind of jump back into the enterprise world and delivering technology in enterprise. So spent a significant amount of time in financial services,
Hmm.
16 years in Prudential Financial and its subsidiaries, which took me over to the US. So I ended up doing a
Cool.
3-year international stint
Right.
with Prudential, which was nice. Got a chance to live in the United States with my wife and 2 kids, which was really cool. And then back in Ireland now, since I came back from the US, was working alongside Prudential, went with TCS for a period, and currently with Endava, which is a London headquartered company. So I work remotely
Hmm.
from the house in Donegal, but spend, as you can imagine, a bit of time over in London
Right.
in our headquarters. I'm actually there next week. So software engineering background, I suppose, to round out the only thing I added in the design side of things too. I took a bit of extra education around the design area because I thought having the software engineering side and then rounding out with the kind of how do you think about it from a design perspective as well. So that's my background and been doing this now for 20 or more years. So
That's quite a rich journey, and the way I look at it, it's kind of a blend of both, the technical roots and also leadership roles that you've done across companies and across geographies as well. What I'd love to do now, Joe, is that, I'd love to shift gears a little, and
sure.
zoom into something that you're really pushing boundaries on, and the world's talking about it as well. It's agentic AI,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of noise around it. Uh, and sometimes I feel it's almost like at an inflection point. Uh, and I want to kind of understand it from your perspective. Uh, what does it truly mean uh, to be or define agentic AI? And how do you
Yeah.
see it transforming healthcare, finance, and many other industries over the next few years?
It's a great question. I mean, I think you could ask 30 people and get 30 different answers. So I'll give you my kind of view on it and certainly how we see it from an Endava perspective. I mean, agentic AI at its purest form is really the idea of having agents augment people in doing roles. So where it's a perfect fit is things like a workflow or a process that needs to be followed. So like agentic AI is not going to be magic. It still needs to know like what are we trying to do? What's the workflow? What's the process we're trying to
Right.
do? So in our eyes, agentic AI is taking AI alongside the role that people perform and can AI augment the following of that process,
Hmm.
following rules, directing things to different directions and that type of thing. That was probably the agentic AI definition up until very recently. There's a lot of agents and agentic frameworks out in the market, and there's many of them. We can get into some of the detail on that if you'd like. But what I'm really interested in now as well, and we are as a company, is the use of agentic to help deliver from a software engineering capacity. Because
Right.
we are a client services company, we've done and built lots of systems for lots of companies all around the world. Now, the interesting thing about the agentic is not only the use of agent AI to deliver solutions in
Hmm.
terms of like help with know your customer in the
Hmm.
financial services game, help with healthcare decisions that need to get made, but now this angle of agentic AI when it comes to augmenting and supporting software engineers, and to be honest, everybody involved in the software delivery lifecycle using tools like, and it's hard because you call out ones and then you leave out others, but certainly the likes of Windsurf, you've got Junie from JetBrains, you've got Codex from OpenAI.
Right.
There's others, there's many of them. So there's this kind of dual path now on Agentic, which is the use of it to support and deliver in business value workflow, but
Hmm.
there's also the dynamic of helping people, including software engineers and people inside of delivery, actually get like large chunks of code off the back of a prompt. We've
Correct.
come rapid in a 6 month period. Agentic AI 6 months ago was really the use of it in solutions. Now we're talking about it in fundamentally changing productivity levels of people, including what we do in the software engineering capacity.
What are the main hurdles do you think that are preventing organizations from implementing or embracing agentic AI?
That's a great question. There's a bit to that. First of all, and I mentioned it already, there's a lot of different frameworks and platforms out there. Like, what is the agentic framework you should use if you're a Microsoft client using Azure
Hmm.
versus AWS? If you're not using the cloud and you're on premise, there's a lot of various different agentic frameworks, approaches, and platforms in the marketplace. So that's certainly a challenge.
Hmm.
How do you wrestle that down? Which one should I pick? If I pick that one, is that the best one from a return on investment perspective, or is that going to be acquired by somebody else and then I'm back to square one? So I think at the moment, a lot of it is there's a lot of offers in the market. So
Hmm.
it's knowing which one to pick
Correct.
is certainly a challenge. The other one is I think people are maybe chasing the agentic AI use case first because of pressure from above, pressure from the market to be seen to be doing the right thing. But I think it's still fundamentally important. Focus on the problem you're trying to solve. Understand that first. If agentic AI is a good solution to doing that,
Hmm.
fantastic. But lean into the problem statement because it's going to be very hard to judge whether your AI agentic AI use case was successful if you don't even know what you're solving and why you're solving it. So I think there's definitely a pent up demand from people to be seen to be using the things. That's another challenge. And then the third one I'd say, just to close this out, because we could talk about it for forever, is there's also the dynamic of the investment that's needed, like agentic AI, generative AI in the use of organizations to give you more productivity. There's certainly open source models out there. There's open source agentic frameworks that can be used as well. But if you're an enterprise, and you mentioned a couple of industries, if you're a heavily regulated industry, controls, data privacy, is my information used to train models? A lot of this stuff needs to be factored in as well. So it's not an easy thing to solve. But I would say, just to finish, there's plenty of proof of concepts out there. People are talking about them. There is also the start of production use case of agentic as well. But what I would say is, just in closing, we're at the start of the journey. I think a lot of people are feeling like, I'm getting left behind. You should certainly be experimenting with it. You should certainly be looking at it for the right use case. But we're also early in the stage of the agentic AI journey. Like, I see this as being a technology trend for the next number of years. This is not something that's agentic AI has done in the next 3 months.
But don't you think that's, I mean, essentially the problem as well, right? So, because a lot of businesses today are experimenting with AI. Okay, but
Yeah.
and there are a lot of use cases, like you said. But the challenge also is that there is no meaningful business value that's been put out there, and somehow I think either there is a misconception about business leaders, you know, have about AI's current capabilities, or there is something that's missing, perhaps a link, you know, and I mean, how does one go about this?
So two parts on that. I mean, AI specifically, I think the broad term that is AI, I think there's a lot of, real good evidence over the years, machine learning in healthcare, et cetera, et cetera. Specific to agentic AI, though, I think what some of the challenges that you're talking about is it's complex. Agentic AI usually relies on teams of individuals, or teams of, in this case, agentic agents, doing the coordination amongst them, the
Hmm.
sharing of information amongst them, managing hierarchy and complexity is hard. So
Hmm.
I think that's where you're starting to see a little bit of the struggles. The POCs are typically one, two, maybe layers of hierarchy deep.
Right.
When you start getting into complex industries, complex businesses,
Hmm.
and this is, I think, where it's really important. I don't see agentic AI being anywhere close to doing something autonomously in its own right.
Hmm.
We very much see it as augmented intelligence, whereby it's still very much with a human in the loop. So what's a really good starting point, because this is to your question, automation. A lot of business processes are well understood, and there's areas that are things that are done there that could be automated
Correct.
with the use of augmented AI, or agentic AI. But the reality is, you should build into your process agentic AI, holding its hand up and
Hmm.
saying, "I've gotten this far. What else should I do?" So the complexities of it, I think, are around the coordination and the use of it.
Hmm.
And honestly, it's the maturity of it. We're at the start. I mentioned it earlier. We're at the start of this. I don't think this is the one agentic platform. This is the one agentic provider that rules them all.
Right.
You see the rapid evolvement of it, but I think it's like a point in time. You're, if Gartner's, you're on the curve of where are we at? Are we on the trough of disillusionment? Are we still climbing? I think that's the key. But in closing, I don't think an option is do nothing, sit tight. You need to be experimenting with these technologies to at least understand what value it can bring to your organization.
Hmm.
Certainly work with companies like us or others to try and help you through that journey. But I would say, we're not in a 100-meter sprint. We're not even, in my opinion, we're not even 30 meters into the 100-meter sprint. That would be where I would think about it. But it's still worth the experiment and still look and at the value, because when you're thinking about your technology strategy, this needs to be part of that consideration.
And what's that mindset shift perhaps businesses need to make, from moving from just experimentations to real world applications?
Well, first of all, is making sure you got the right use case, because we talked about it earlier. Do not go after agentic AI use cases for agentic AI use case sake, or to market yourself as an agentic company, for example. You see that happening. So first of all, identify the right use case, but identify the right type of use case too. We in Endava, when working with companies, talk about this crawl, walk, run analogy. So, crawl is the use of generative AI to help make your staff more productive, like whatever your preference is on generative AI. Walk is maybe building more complex things, maybe low levels of automation. Run then might be the use of agentic AI in actual mainstream delivery from a workflow perspective. But I think it's really important to identify the right use case. Don't be too ambitious with the use case as well, because there's that maturity gap. But also the third thing is look at automation opportunities. Think of like where people used to think about RPA. We feel a lot of value comes from the use of RPA on steroids almost, is like what the nice entry point for agentic AI can be. But the complexity can be shared amongst various different hierarchies. But the more complex you make it, the more rules you're putting in it, the harder it is for it to be coordinated and facilitated. So there'd be a couple of things, but I would lead with and start with, and we say internally, let's not have AI brilliantly solve the wrong problem. The problem is the important part, because it's going to be hard for you to measure the impact if you don't know what it is that you're doing, or why you're doing it, is the better way to put it.
I loved how you framed that. Let not AI solve brilliantly a problem, which is all right. So, Joe, what I want to do next is essentially tap into your leadership side a little, because you've built and led global teams, through a lot of transformation projects. In fact, so for technology professionals or leaders looking to future proof their careers, apart from AI, what are some of the skill sets you think they should invest in?
So I would say two parts to that. I would think mindset is massively important, not only today, but where we're going in a world of, and we talked a lot about AI, but there's a lot of disruption in the world right now, whether it be volatility from a political perspective, various different challenges that are well covered in the news, and I'm not going to go into the detail of that, but there's a lot coming at people as a leader. There's a lot coming at your teams.
Right.
There's disruption in the technology world, but disruption in the way we've kind of done things for a long period of time. So I think before getting specifically into skills, I think a huge focus should be around mindset. Some people talk about a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. Some people talk about EQ versus IQ, the whole emotional intelligence. I do really think it's hard at the moment to deal with all that's coming at a company, whether it's technology disruption, global disruption, whatever.
Right.
And as a leader, I think it's really important for you to support your team, but that growth mindset is unbelievably important. I think it's important in life. I think it's important in leadership. I think it's important in your work. Like that whole self-fulfilling prophecy. If you don't think you can do it, you're absolutely right, because you have basically set in your mind, it's not possible for me to do this.
Right.
Versus a growth mindset, and there's a lot written about this. People much better than me. There's loads of books out there that if this is something that is of interest to people. But a growth mindset is one. It's kind of that yes and mentality. When somebody's talking and you're vibing and you're giving ideas, don't go, no, but it won't, because no, but whatever. It's yes, what you said, and then this on top of it. That's examples of growth mindset. So I think it's really, really important for any leader trying to influence their people in any company to display, not just do it for the sake of it, live, breathe, and display a growth mindset. Because the challenge is there's never been as much disruption. I don't see that slowing down. If anything, I see it getting more. And a growth mindset is one that is really important, because what you don't know, more things are going to come your way. We talked about agentic AI and how much has moved in 6 months. So having a growth mindset towards that is really important. So that will be mindset over the skills. The other things, though, I think, is have a curiosity, have a passion and an interest in your business, in the technology that you're trying to use. Like, be broad. I would try to read. I'm a religious reader of certain content, because I don't have as much time as I'd like. But there's certain things I will not read on a given day.
Hmm.
So the skill of having a focus, and that sounds crazy because it's like, what is a skill around focus? Block out time in your calendar. It's important. Block out time in your calendar for self-learning,
Hmm.
reading articles or materials that's important to your industry, to the technology trends that are coming. Having that focus is really, really important, because if you don't know what's coming as a leader, it's very hard for you to kind of frame the strategy and help kind of communicate the same down to your own team. And then the other thing is communication. I mean, has there ever been
Yeah.
a more important time for clear communication than right now? So over communicate. I like the idea of communicating to the point that somebody go. If people are rolling your eyes because you're telling them it yet again, you're probably at the point that they've
You
heard it.
communicated it well.
Versus, I'm wondering what I haven't heard from your leader in a long time. So it's simple, and I like so growth mindset over fixed mindset, blocking out time to have a focus and a passion and interest in what you're doing as an industry, where the technology is going, and then communication. So it's not particularly complex things, but I think it's really, really important that we do the basics, but do the basics well.
And you talked about disruption, which is this AI driven disruption. The other disruption is the Gen Z disruption.
Yeah,
And you're really trying to, there's people and there's tech. And as a business leader, do you think there is a specific leadership style that is going to work better now, or something that you should be looking at?
that's a great question. I think, and this might be slightly controversial, I think there is a style that comes to interacting and interfacing with different generations. And I'll go back to that in a second. But I also think, back to my previous answer, I also think there's fundamentals that are consistent, irrelevant of the age group you're working with.
Correct.
I still think people want to be communicated in a natural way, and know that communication is important to you and the messaging comes down to everybody. I think irrelevant of the generation, and when you've joined the workforce, I think that's a trait that I see displayed in everybody,
Yeah.
because all of us want to know where we're going, what's the North Star, what's the vision, etc., etc., and that communication coming from the top of the organization. What's our strategy, and more importantly, not only what's our strategy, but why. So I think there's a consistency for everybody.
Right.
But that being said, to your question, there is certainly a communication style, maybe, or a difference
Hmm.
in different generations.
Hmm.
So for somebody who's potentially, we've done a recent academy of 300 people who are all graduates just after joining us in Endava out in Romania. I'm the
Mhm.
European CTO, so that will come under my remit. And it's interesting. We've got 300 people. They're all in their early 20s. Some of them mightn't even be 20, and they've just joined the workforce.
Right.
And they're really interested uh, in Dava, what we've done, where we're going next, the why behind that. So they have a real interest and intrigue into what's the company, what we stand for, the values, and why there are values. So I think that's an example of where you would need to lean in and how you communicate with an audience like that,
Hmm.
maybe slightly differently than somebody who's maybe with us for 12, 13 years, who can rhyme off the values, have lived the values, see it as part of our culture.
Hmm.
Because I think the one thing I would say for people earlier in their career, they really want to work in an organization that has an impact.
Correct.
They're not. I don't think it's just about, I'm here to do a job.
Yeah.
I'm here to take a wage. And I don't think anybody. I'm not saying for a second that it was the case with anybody in the generations as they look to work. But purpose is really important to the younger generation.
Absolutely.
And working at a company that has a purpose means that if you're a leader working with people that are joining your company in their 20s, you have to take a different approach to explain, this is our purpose, these are our values, but more importantly, here's how we display them, and here's why they're our values. So I think that connecting with that audience with that piece of information is maybe slightly nuanced than somebody who's joining your organization. Like, I'm in my 40s, I'm mid 40s. I don't know, like, if the first thing I'd want to hear from my leadership is, these are our values. And I'm not saying that purpose doesn't matter to me, but at my age and in my career, it's probably, I'm at a different stage. So consistency is important, but I do think there's nuance to the different generations. And the one thing I would say is, I think the 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 new generation of people entering the workforce are getting a bit of a hard time, right? There's a lot of press coverage about their attention to detail, etc. Like,
Right.
I don't subscribe to that either, right? I mean, I work with plenty of really, really highly intelligent, highly engaged workers who are coming in the door, doing great things. And the one thing about bringing youth into your organization, they come with an energy
Right.
that is very, very important, and it's nice because that energy does have an impact and cascades throughout your entire organization. So that would be my very long-winded answer to your question.
And talking about people, as a leader, I think it's his job to make the people and the teams that he's working with really feel safe to take those risks and experiment with anything that's they want to kind of experiment with. How do you create that environment?
I mean, there's psychological safety is a term that's been out there for some time. I mean, in the nuts and bolts of it is basically that you have to provide the support and air cover to your team so that they know it's okay to experiment. I think, though, it's back to the mindset. First of all, if you're innovating and experimenting, you have to provide the clear communication to the team that it's okay to fail. And even the word failure, I hate, because personally, I love this. There was a book written. It's like you obviously got win or fail, but the book that was written was win or learn.
Hmm.
Now, specifically in this case, it was a coaching book from a sports perspective, but I just love that mindset. It's
Right.
like, if you're going to experiment and you're going to innovate and you're going to do the bleeding edge of AI, guess what? You're not always going to get it right. It's
Absolutely.
not always going to meet the criteria that you expect it to, but there's no such thing as failing in that use case. So how do you set that safety to your people? You need to tell them that up front.
Hmm.
We're experimenting here. I don't expect everything that we do and invest in is going to have a return. But if you go into it with the right mindset and look out for the nuggets that you learn, even when things don't go right, that's
Hmm.
still valuable. There's still a return on that investment. That will inform you of the next thing that you try and do. Oh, we experiment with this before, it didn't work, but remember what we learned.
Right.
So that's important. You need to communicate that and be upfront with people. It's different than if you're buying a product. The return on investment is clear. If you're innovating and investing, tell people this is R&D. I don't expect to have us to have all the answers. We learn along the way, but use the language. We learn along the way. Don't
Hmm.
talk about a failure. People say celebrate the failures. I like the nuance of talking about it and what we've learned, because that's the value prop. So that's one thing. The other thing is, though, it's hard innovating.
Hmm.
So when things don't go right and the budget that you've spent isn't maybe as much a return as you would have hoped,
Right.
you have to provide the air cover to
Absolutely.
the people, your own people, and they will basically measure you on how you react when things aren't going as well, but then how you manage up above to say, listen, okay, it didn't go as we expected, but here's what we learned. And I back the team, and the team did great things, and talk about all the value of everything. And then the last thing I would say is around this whole psychological safety and getting people to
Hmm.
experiment. The other thing that so few people do, thank people.
Hmm.
And not just thank you like this format. I have a little knack that I've done for a long time. I send, if somebody goes out of their way for me, if I visit a location or people do great things or innovating and doing great things, send an email when you come back after meeting them. If you're on your travels like I am, send an email to their boss and their boss's boss. Just want to call out Vikram. Did an unbelievable job,
Yeah.
hosted impeccably, but celebrate. So he showed me what he's doing on research with artificial intelligence. Amazing stuff. Just wanted to A, thank him for it, and B, just give him a shout out. I do that not as often possibly as I should, but it has always been part of my leadership toolkit,
Hmm.
and it's incredibly powerful because nobody does that.
Hmm.
People don't thank our people anymore. So if you build that trust, though, it all goes towards building that trust and relationship with people. But it goes a long way, and it's an important thing. But the last thing I'd say is, when things don't go well, you have to stand up as a leader and give them the air cover. If you don't, people won't experiment, or they'll experiment and not have the outcome and not tell you. That's not the same thing. If you're going to experiment and innovate, you have to be willing to take the hard times and the good times. So I would say a leader needs to show up more in the challenging times than,
Absolutely.
oh yeah, look what the team built. It's brilliant, isn't it? Because that's easy to do. It's not so easy to do it when somebody's going, we spent how much and what's the outcome for it?
Yeah.
So
And I personally relate to a lot of things that you said because I have a similar philosophy at work here as well. Even before, we're going after these tasks which we feel are unattainable or targets that are unachievable.
yeah,
The first thing I set the ground clear with is, eh, what's the worst that could go wrong? You know,
yeah,
okay, we
exactly.
lose it all. Okay, if you're going to lose it all, then we might as well just try to win it all. Just
Yeah,
go with that mindset. And then, I'm absolutely, like I said, I keep telling my team, I'm absolutely okay with you failing as long as you're learning from that process. The only thing
yeah,
that I would love for you guys to do and pick up is, like, fail fast.
yeah, exactly.
It's something
Yeah,
that I picked up from one of my ex-colleagues and CEOs. Just fail fast enough so that you can make transitions or changes to be able to come up with viable outcomes, which will kind of help
yeah.
you in your achieving your goals. So yeah,
But share it too, though. Share it as well.
yes,
That's the other thing. People are almost like, "Oh my God, this didn't work out like," and they almost like hone it. That
yeah,
that's not tell anybody. Like, there's as much value in broadly, like whether it be stand-ups, lunch and learns, but sharing what you're learning with the people on the journey is
right,
as much as wait until the end to communicate. Because what that happens is it sparks off. Somebody goes, "Oh, I tried that. Maybe they had the same challenge as I did." So I 100% agree with you, Vikram. But it's almost as well celebrate or communicate it is important too. Like, don't wait till the end to share the learning.
right. No, fantastic. I think this is absolute gold to Joe. And before we wrap up, I want to throw in a little fun round so our audiences can get to know you a little better,
Sure.
the Joe behind the title. So coming up next is our favorite rapid fire round. I want you to be completely candid. When you
Yeah,
are ready, just let me know and we'll go for it.
sure. Yeah, I'm good to go.
Okay. Coffee, tea, or something stranger during crunch time.
Answer will be water. I don't drink tea or coffee,
Oh,
and I'm also a bit of a health. I know an Irishman that doesn't drink tea is a
yeah.
whole conversation for another podcast. But so I drink a lot of water. I think I'm into fitness anyway, but I think staying hydrated, particularly when you're under pressure, is actually really important. So my answer to that one will be water.
The most underestimated tech skill in today's workforce.
I'm going to cheat because I'm not going to go with a tech skill. I'm going to just
Okay.
I think resiliency is unbelievably important. So rather than being a tech skill, a
Fair,
person's
no,
skill,
fair enough.
and
Fair enough.
yeah, it's a challenging time out there. We covered it already. So resiliency would be my answer to that one.
Let's go to the next one. What's your go-to method for clearing your mind after a long work day?
I am a big fan of eating dinner with the family. So one kind of thing we still try to do in the house. My kids are 16 and 13. Is we eat as a family. So it's a nice way to put a cap on the end of the day. Sit down, enjoy a meal, no phones, just share and how's everybody's day been. But it's a simple task, but it bookends my day.
The next one. If you could go back in time, what technological shift would you want to witness firsthand?
It depends how far back in time, but I would probably go. I think the invention of electricity, because as a tech guy, everything is goes back to the
To
invention of electricity, ones and zeros, logic, even how computers work. Well, we're about to go into the world of quantum, but either way, I think electricity has truly transformed the human race. So I would say electricity, and to be there to
witness
actually
it, yeah.
witness it would be incredible.
If you had 24 hours completely free to yourself, how would you spend it?
I would spend it with my family, and that's a cheesy thing to say, but that's genuine. Just 24 hours not doing anything with any sort of distraction.
Hmm.
24 hours with my family, and it doesn't even have to be something that sophisticated. Just spending time with each other. Go for a walk, bring the
Right.
dog, that kind of thing.
What's the most adventurous thing that you've ever done?
I've done I've done like the adventure things. So I've done bungee jumping,
Oh, nice.
and that type of stuff. So that, but I would say from a professional perspective, probably moving to the United States because my son was 3 months old and my daughter
Oh,
was three years old. So
oh,
myself, my wife, and two young kids, 3 and 3 months, moved to the US in October 2012. So professionally, I would say that because it was a big thing to take on with a 3 month old and move the family. And
right.
then on the non-professional side, I would say, yeah, probably something like bungee jumping or something in the adventure sports. I'm a big roller coaster fan, so I recently spent time in Orlando. So
Oh,
maybe bungee jumping, and in a professional capacity, living and moving to the United States with a 3 month old. It was a good time, but it was a challenging time.
what's that one place on your travel bucket list you haven't checked off yet?
I'm a big travel guy. We've been lucky enough to get around quite a few places. I would say Machu Picchu is on the list and hasn't been achieved yet, but it's somewhere I'd love to experience.
A couple of final ones now. One app or tool that you can't live without.
ChatGPT, to be honest. It's become so important
Yeah,
to me, to be honest. It really has. So I would say ChatGPT Enterprise, we're enterprise customers. So yeah, I have it on my phone, I have it on my Mac, and it's
yeah.
probably the one at the moment that
It's
I
changed.
couldn't live
It's
without.
changed a lot of things for everybody around. They had the first
It
mover
has.
advantage. I'm sure there are a lot better out there as well.
Yeah, and there's other companies out there as well. For us, for me, we've been ChatGPT for a long time, but that's not to say one's better than the other. But
Yeah.
for me, certainly on a daily basis, ChatGPT. Yeah.
And on that note, what's the first app that you check in the morning every day?
It's Outlook. I'm sad to say. And I mean sad to say. Like I don't mean that I don't like what I do, but I get up. I am a person that gets up and checks. I will check my email first. I'll check my Microsoft Teams second. So in that order. And I'm an early riser because I train. So I get up at like 5:30 in the morning on a Tuesday morning. I will lift my phone and I will check my Outlook. That's sad. I know that sounds sad, and
Yeah.
I'm sad saying it, but that's just how I'm wired.
But
So Outlook would
I
be the
think
first thing.
you wouldn't be the first one. I think everybody almost does the same thing. Uh, I have asked this question to a lot of people, and they always end up saying the first thing they're probably looking at is Teams or chats, or a WhatsApp business. A work group that's WhatsApp
Yeah.
on WhatsApp. So actually, my next question was going to be, are you a early riser or a night owl? But you probably answered that already.
Yeah, so early riser because of training. So I do a lot of training for fitness, but also mental health.
Nice.
I find it really important to kind of when you're ch in a challenging job with lots of work effort that you make time for your fitness, your peace of mind. So 5:30 rise on a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday for a 6:15 class. I run the other days and I don't do anything on a Saturday. So over time, Vikram, I used to be a night owl. I then had kids and a family and I got busier at work. So I'm typically in bed early and rise early. And even at weekends, if I if I'm sleeping past 7:30, that's late for me. 9 would be absolutely late. Whereas when I was younger, it was the reverse.
Yeah, I think I'm making the transition myself now. I have a 5 month old at home.
Yeah, okay.
I so I used to sleep at 3 o'clock, even after marriage actually.
Right.
Now I'm at bed at 10,
Yeah.
and then I'm trying to, obviously the baby wakes up in the nights, but I try to get up, go early to bed, and try.
It's nice though, right? I think there's something to be said. It's at 5:30 in the morning. If you go outside, even you don't have to be running or doing anything like even just go for a walk. It feels like you're the only person
Yes, and it's
awake.
very
It,
peaceful.
it, there- it's unbelievable. I think from a mental health start of the day perspective, getting out early, getting some daylight, and just going out and even doing nothing more. We've a dog, so walk the dog. First thing every day, myself and my wife do together would be walk the dog.
Yeah,
I think it's really, really important.
yeah.
But at that time of the day, there's something lovely. I even like when I travel, you're
Mhm.
driving somewhere
Somewhere,
at
yeah.
that time of the day. It just feels like everybody else, the world's asleep, and you're the only one in it. I get a lot of, it charges me for the day. I really like it.
And the last one before we let you go, one piece of advice you'd give your younger self.
Enjoy the moment would be what I would say.
Nice.
I'm 44 now. I'm in tech for over 20 years. I would say I'm very future focused. What's happening next? What's happening next? What's happening next? Not as interested in the past because I think honestly, without getting too human psychology about it, I like there's very little you can do about the past. It's
Mm,
good to learn from the past to inform the future,
mm,
but don't dwell on it. But as a youngster and as coming up in my career, I was always focused on what's next, what's next, what's next, future, future, future. And what I know now, being the age that I am, is that it's important to when it does go well for you, because it won't always go well for you, but when it does, pause,
pause, yeah.
enjoy the moment, and let that sink in, because it's really, really important to energize you for the next time around. Whereas when you're in your 20s, in your 30s, and you're catching wins, it's like water off a duck's back. And
Right.
then you get to my age, and it's kind of like it's really important to celebrate the wins and
Right.
enjoy the moment. Because honestly, why are we doing it if you don't take time
Time to.
to celebrate what you've achieved? Because otherwise, life passes you by, and you realize, oh my God, I never really thought about when that thing happened. And success comes in various, whether it's success in your family life, success in your professional, whatever. But in my early 20s, I know I was on to the next thing. Pause, take a moment. It doesn't have to be long, but enjoy the moment, reflect on how it feels,
Right.
because it'll energize you for other stuff. So that would be my advice to my early self.
Fantastic, Joe. I mean, this is something that I keep telling my work colleagues as well. You'll take the wind after the wind after the wind, but then you have to, at some point, stop and stare, and
Yeah,
soak in the moment. And that's what I mean, much later, realize those are the moments that really, stood out for you. Don't let them pass by, as
yeah,
always tell them.
it's really
Fantastic, Joe.
important.
This has been such an energizing conversation. Thank you so much for joining us today, and sharing, your thoughts on what's happening in the world of agentic AIs, your professional journey, and obviously, what makes you human at the end of the
Yeah.
day. So thanks again, once again, for joining us. Any parting thoughts?
No, just thanks very much for the opportunity, Vikram. Great questions. This was really engaging conversation. I love the blend of getting into the person side and the leadership side as well as the technology side. So thanks very much for the opportunity, and I look forward to listening to future podcasts from you guys, and thanks again.
Thank you so much, Joe.
Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode, subscribe on YouTube, Instagram, or your favorite podcast app. Catch past episodes and more at TechDogs.com. See you next time.